we are again. We're going to do a this old Tony here, right? So the this is new to me. I understand what the idea of a crossover is. I don't want to say I don't know how it works. But I don't know how it really works. So I have this schematic here. I do know how to read a schematic for the most part. So let's open the box. What's in the box? And see what we have here. So we have a box full of electronic components here. Let's do that. Now I'm going to complain because, you know, my day wouldn't be complete without complaining about shit. The parts kit did not come with stuff that I personally think it should have came with. One of the things that it didn't come with was any kind of wire. Now, theoretically, if you were going to be doing speaker work, you should have wire. I have wire. So this is the wire actually I run from my equipment to my head unit. This is 14 gauge dual lead wire. This is pretty decent stuff. It's marked positive on one side, the other side's not marked at all, so therefore that's the negative side if that's the way you want to do it. I'm not going to use that stuff. So I went to my local Napa Crappa and I bought some primary lead in red and black and 14 gauge. The conductor strand is a little large for what I'm doing. I'd like to have a smaller physical internal wire structure. The smaller the wires, the better off you are. The other option would be a full hard wire, a solid wire like Romex or whatever, but I didn't do that either. So I bought this stuff at Napa, red and black. You know, not for nothing, I get easily distracted and easily I get easily distracted. So the best way for me to do this project is to use two completely different colored wires so I can't screw up the positive and negative. I don't want to fry my $1,500 amp. So there we are. The other thing, and this is a huge complaint actually, is that it didn't come with any kind of spade connectors. Now, if you're selling a kit, and this is the second complaint on this kit, is if you're selling a kit for speakers, a speaker kit, it should come with literally everything you need to do, or everything you need. I know Parts Express sells these because it's on their website, right? You need two different sizes. You need the 1/4 inch to go on, now these are the lugs, they don't even fit on those. You son of a bitch. I have ones that do fit on here. Yeah, they don't fit. These are okay, they do fit actually, but you gotta really shove them on there. That's okay. The other thing, I had some of these, I have some in the Horde here, but mine are 18 gauge, so I went and bought the blue ones, which are 14 gauge. I may actually solder these connections, we'll see. I have plenty now. And then you need the little ones for the speakers themselves, right? So I didn't have the little ones, and you can't use the little ones with the big ones. You can, but they don't ever really work great. They don't work the way they're intended to. And my experience with trying to solder a speaker connection onto a speaker has been piss poor, to say the least, over my experience. I've been futzing with this stuff for pretty much my entire life, ever since I was a little kid. And every time I ever tried to solder a speaker connection to a speaker, I screwed this connection up. It's me. You know, it's definitely something that I just never quite mastered. I know how to run a soldering iron, but you know, it is what it is. So now let's take a look at what we have for our crossovers. These are capacitors, I know that, and they're all marked. So these are marked 500 UF, which is ultra farad or farad. So C4, I'm going to turn this around. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to flip the camera around. So these are marked 500 UF. No, that's marked 500 UF. C1, C4. Ooh. So this one's marked 15 UF, 250 volt. So that's this one. So these two, C4 and C1, capacitor 1, capacitor 4, so that's capacitor 2. These two go together. Okay, I think. And then this is an inductor coil. Which I'm fairly sure this isn't the one I need for this, but we'll see. It should be marked. I'm not going to open all the boxes and hopefully it's marked on the coil itself. AC 20-3. .30 mH. So that's this one. It doesn't look like they're marked in any positive or negative way. Kind of trying to be a little bit dainty with this stuff. So these two get twisted together. Okay, here it is. I don't remember where I shut the camera off or whether or not the camera did shut itself off or whatever happened. I actually just had an incredibly frustrating experience trying to test this thing. I know this thing looks sketchy as all get out. As a matter of fact, I don't like the way this looks at all. But quite frankly, and I keep reiterating it, in that the fact that I've seen, like, I hate to say it, this is the way it's done, but it just seems, and it seems odd to me that this is the way it's done, but it seems like it's the way it's done. That wasn't my brightest move. Yeah, so my retro 90s stereo in the basement has decided that it's going to go on the Fritz. So that was actually the stereo that I used to test this, just to make sure that it would flow sound. I hooked up the tweeter, I hooked up the mid, just out of the case, obviously out of the box, just to make sure that we weren't going to get any smoke out of these wires. I didn't get any smoke out of the wires. Plenty of smoke out of me. This project has taken this many cigarettes so far. So yeah, this is what I got. I did test fit this in the box, in the stereo box, or in the speaker box. It fits fine. There's plenty of room. I'm actually going to mount it on what would be considered the backside. I'm going to put I'm going to put a screw in it to hold it into place. It works. It absolutely does work. And like I said, this is the way they do it, and you know, they being whomever, you know, this is the way it was shown. Actually, this is a little bit neater than some of the other ones I've seen. I'm not crazy about this, like I said, but you know, well, it is what it is. So now let's put the other one together. I'm going to leave this one over here as a reference, because if I'm going to screw up, I might as well screw it up completely the same way both times. So the first thing I did on the other one was mounted the coil. That's the tool I'm looking for. This is a marking knife, actually. It works good for deburring holes in this this cardboard. And it just gets hot glued together. It's quite frankly, I find it amazing. I've taken a lot of electronics apart, and I use a ton of hot glue when I do projects. I mean, it's what it's what I use. There's no real heat involved with this thing. There's no real stress involved. You know, literally for this application, once these speakers get put into place, the only, you know, vibration or movement or whatever that they're going to ever experience is maybe I'll move them to, you know, maybe I'll move them when I you know, clean or something, but they're not going to be thrown in a truck. They're not going to be hauled around like professional PA equipment. So this should be fine. Like I said, I'm not super crazy about it. The sound that came out of the speakers, they did play sound, was piss poor to say the least. But that being said, speakers without speakers that don't have a housing around them do have a tendency to sound like crap. That's the nature of speakers. So let's glue this down. You're supposed to, I don't know what you're supposed to do. I'm going to glue these things down because they bounce around all over the place, and I find it difficult to manipulate the wires when they're not fastened. At least that's my 5 minutes of experience I have here with this. This one too. So like I said, I'm using this one as my guide here. And I was a little horrified. I went online, and I mean, because that's what you do, is you go to YouTube and you see what other people have done, to kind of give you an idea. And yeah, quite frankly, I was definitely horrified by the way I saw a lot of those people do these. Like I said, it's somewhat horrifying. I'm going to stack these a little differently. Fucker. Oh, they're a little bit bigger. Huh. I didn't even notice that on the other ones. I kind of split the difference. These are actually a little bit longer than the other ones. Yeah, this is like, I don't know, it's weird. It's fascinating, really. I mean, I know what they do. They split the audio frequency. You know, split your highs and your lows. To be honest, the last time I fiddled with the inside of speakers, they were a set of Realistics my dad had from the 1960s. He bought when he came home from Vietnam. So there's that. Okay. Got to harden up a little bit. Yeah, because that ain't hard. Trip to circuit breaker, plug in my, let me call it back in. My, oh, I did do something cool that I didn't get on camera. I split the, positive and the negatives. I really hope these things sound a lot better when they're in the house. If not, I'm going to be really disappointed. It'd literally be $300 into the fucking toilet. You know, like I said, they did not sound great, but they weren't in a housing, and quite frankly, my input device, I ended up having to use my aging iPad, the one that I literally just replaced, because it's on the fritz, or was on the fritz, still is on the fritz. It was 10 years old, so it doesn't owe me nothing. Doesn't owe me anything. All right. Those are what they are. I have taken old school electronics apart before. I had an old tube radio that Tepper gave me, and the inside of that thing it would definitely look like it was wired up by a drunk monkey. That's for damn sure. So there's that. I've got that going for me. The drunk monkey. I just wish I knew more about how this stuff, I hate to say how it works, because I know how it works, but I kind of don't know how it works. I don't know exactly what I wish I knew more, let's put it that way. And I joke about it, but man, I can only know so much. I hate to say I've reached my saturation point with knowledge, but man, starting to reach my saturation point with knowledge. Now the other argument there is you never reach a saturation point with knowledge. You just pick and choose what you want to know or learn. So that's the other side of that. That's the other side of that discussion. Following the schematics and putting it together really is pretty easy. So when I did it the first time, I kind of took forever to do it. And I'm taking forever to do this one too. The truth... Ah! Hot lava! Hot lava on my finger! Okay, so this is the way it's done. I'm just totally baffled by that. Like literally baffled by the way that this stuff is just, you know, the way it's done. Like I said, a breadboard or I don't know. This is my screw up. But I like to make them look the same, so I'm going to definitely screw that up again and put a jumper wire in there. They specifically say to try not to do that. Or the one video I watched, or actually it wasn't even a video, it was an article I watched, the guy said don't try this at home, or don't use too many jumper wires in between components. It's just a point of failure, really. I will say now that I do have kind of a schematic here of you know, a model to go off of. It's going a little bit smoother, not by much, but only a little smoother. Bought a pair of Sherwin-Vega VS120 speakers when I was a kid. I was 20 actually, or 19, 20. I forget how old I was. I was really young. I paid a ton of money for them in 1990. Probably 2 weeks, 3 weeks, if not a month's pay for those speakers. But one of the funny things about them, or one of the cool things, funny, cool, I don't know what you want to call it, interesting things, was the instructions that said, a message from Sherwin-Vega and your local dentist, or the American Dental Association, please do not use your teeth to strip wire with. I always thought that was kind of funny. The one upside to this weird ass project, or cockamamie scheme as my wife likes to call my weird projects, is that because I am building these, and if something does pop or go bad or whatever, I know how it's built. It's kind of one of the reasons I'm doing it. I've always wanted to do this kind of project. I've always wanted to do this. So, I mean, even like I said, even when I was a little kid, I used to play with my dad's You know, my dad had that old realistic stereo that he gave me. It didn't take me long to take it apart and play with it, you know, play with the guts. What makes this thing work? Maybe not. Pretty decent sized blob of slaughter. Yeah, slaughter on there. We should be fine. So that is the woofer. Oh, another red wire. The lead wires going out off of this don't need to be super long. They're actually way longer than they need to be. But, man, what the hell. It's not like I'm using my last bit of wire. I bought new wire today. Yeah, this soldering iron is definitely the way to go with this project. Now, if you haven't noticed, I'm just kind of going for it at this point. But that is because I'm fairly confident. What I'd really like to do is get... Oh, so, yeah. For whatever reason, well, I know the reason, it's freaking forever old. My stereo in the house, the CD player, decided to stop working. Yes, I still have a CD player. It was acting weird the other day. It is what it is. What it is 30 plus years old. Alright. That's my positive side of my... That is the positive side of... These little Harbor Freight wire strippers have worked out phenomenally. I bought them as a lark, really, because I needed the real fine end, and everything I tried wasn't actually working right. I think it's on my grounds. The only thing I changed oops. The only thing I changed was the way I stacked the capacitors and wired in the coil. Hey, that's still fucking hot. I think I had hot glue on it. Oh no, I burned the piss out of myself. Okay. These leads are a little bit shorter too. But quite frankly, it doesn't matter. I can put this wherever I want. There's no, there really is no, I'm not constrained by anything, let's put it that way. How'd you lose your eye, Fez? I stuck it right in the end of this thing. Check. My fingers are working just as well. Not like I haven't burned the piss out of them too today. Good enough. We're going to run that. That's there. And we're going to put a blob of glue there because that's where I want the blob of glue. I know I'm overbuilding this, but I wish I knew how to work my multimeter, because I could probably test this whole thing just by using a multimeter, an ohm, you know, the ohm side of my multimeter. That's there. That goes to the tweeter. I'm going to go back and put a little bit more glue on some of these that don't have glue over the top. My experience with hot glue and wiring is you got to completely cover the wire or else it will pop out. I ran into that problem with my Volkswagen. I used a good bit of hot glue. I used hot glue when I built a couple of the speaker things for that car. Like basically I was just using it what I'm using it here now to hold the glue or hold the wiring in place, and I just put the hot glue and then jammed the wire into it. Well, the wire fell out of the hot glue, so I had to go back and redo some of that. You gotta be a little careful with the hot glue gun because it will melt the wiring, it will melt the insulation on the wiring if you're not careful. It takes a good bit of time to do it, but it will do it. Voice of experience. Alright, so now we're gonna grab a piece of black wire. About yay long. Again, a little bit longer than it needs to be. But it's not going to hurt anything if it's a little too long. Just folded it in half. I'm going to put a strip there, strip it there, strip it there. Take my eye poker here. Cut the wire. Check to make sure I didn't cut any of the strands. Twist there. Strip this wire back. Give this a little twisteroo there. I'm going to slide this back in the frame a little. This is how I did the last one. Worked out pretty well. Now there's two, the reason I'm doing this is there's two drivers, you know, two woofers or whatever you want to call them. Two mid-range drivers. So you need to join those wires together some way. That's how I did it. Now I could have run separate wires off the capacitor, but that's kind of dumb, really. Yeah, it's a nice wet joint. My joints always tight, my rhymes are for ya. If you want them long, baby, I got one for ya. Yeah, I actually used more wire with this project than I had intended, or thought I would. I didn't actually have enough. Looking at the wire I had compared to the wire I have, I absolutely would have been pissed because I don't run out of wire. One thing I'm not crazy about with these is they do have a tendency to change the size. So these are this is how it adjusts the size, and it does move around a little, but you just got to be mindful of it. I generally don't use it for wire this big. I have a zillion other wire strippers. I think I have more pairs of wire strippers than I have wire cutters, but then again, all wire strippers are wire cutters for the most part. Now I'm pretty satisfied with the way that went, so before I go any further, I actually want to unplug my hot glue gun because I'm almost out of hot glue. We're gonna trying to get it on camera. I'm just gonna put a big blob of hot glue on that joint there. I'm gonna drop that between my legs to burn myself, and then big blob there. And then I'm actually going to unplug my hot glue gun. Just because I don't need it anymore. At least not for the time being. Now, more of the never-ending fucking process here. Now these are the tweeter. Okay. So, they're pretty close to the right length. The tweeters use 1/4-inch spade connectors on both sides. The drivers use 1/4 on one and 1/8 on the other. So, yeah, they use 1/4 on the positive and 1/8 on the negative. So the I don't like using straight up spade connectors, with, you know, just crimp connectors. It's relatively low power. I actually soldered all the connections in my truck when I did it. Every single speaker connection, I use spade connectors to attach the speakers, so there's my choke point, but all the wiring was all soldered in some way, shape, or form. I used a lot of heat shrink, low temp heat shot. I say that fast. Low temperature heat shrink solder connectors in my truck. I actually had one of them fail. It took me a little bit of the time to figure out how those things work properly. And that would have been my preference for these, but because this was a bit of a field expediency, I just went with regular crimp connectors. Oh, it just dawned on me, these are not wired in. Okay, they're wired in series. They are wired in series. Okay, just make it short. Almost done, kids. I'm actually going to have to end this shortly anyway. I actually need to edit this video. I'm trying to get some of it up. I'm sure there's some audio file somewhere having a fit the way I'm doing this. But That is hilarious. There's actually, it's not fully sealed. Oh well. This one's the same way. Yeah, I can use some finishing tape on it. I'm not a huge fan of black electrical tape. I'm not gonna lie. But it does have its uses. Yeah, I'd love to have a little drop of solder in there. But, que sera, sera. All right. Time. 57 minutes from the time I drilled the first hole till I finished. At least finished for the time being.